It's so interesting you say that, because one of the challenges that I was talking about earlier was there's you see like, okay, search engine optimization. Oh, you got to do search engine.
And then everyone runs there.
Everybody runs there. And REOs, got to do REOs. And it's I've always sort of thought that it's a combination of greed and fear. The greed is, well, listen, I don't want to miss out on this REO boom.
Yeah.
And fear is, well, I don't think my thing's going to work, right? I mean, Buffini obviously is a by referral only person. He's got thousands of agents who are using it and working, but there's still that fear of, well, maybe it's not going to work for me.
Yeah.
Or the greed piece of, well, maybe that would work for me, but I don't want to miss out on the big boom. And what happens is, of course, you jump from thing to thing to thing,
and then you never get good.
So tell me about what is your vision for your business? Like, seriously, like, what is let me ask you before we get there, how does your business work in terms of your day? What does your day look like? What does your week look like? How integral are you in the business?
So, like about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, I was at that point where I was like, okay, I got these people in place. I feel like I'm doing good, but it still felt like I didn't quite have it right. You know what I mean? I was like waking up and not knowing what was happening, and all these things were coming at me.
Like, you didn't know what was happening in terms of like things were being done in your name, or
no, more
you weren't
like
sure like what you were going to do that day?
Yeah,
okay.
And so what I decided to do was like plan my week out. So on Mondays, I usually deal with like contract cleanup. Like, all week long and all weekend long, you're writing offers, sending offers. So Mondays are usually like, I'll touch in with all the people in my office. We'll like go through our contracts and say, okay, what's closing this week? What do we get under contract? Like, what do we need to like put together? That's kind of Mondays, just like catch up day. Tuesdays are listing days. So when I take a listing, I tell listing clients, you're going to hear from me every Tuesday, and here's why. Because Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, that's our busy time. Those are when agents are coming, and I need a day, and they need a day to like catch up,
right?
Do their keys so I can see their info, call them, they call me back, and so I will be happy to talk to you between that time. But without a doubt, I don't care if there's a hurricane, you will be hearing from me on Tuesday with an update of who showed it, what they thought, what the market did since the last Tuesday update. And you know what? That made my listing life so much easier.
Because you didn't have to like worry that you weren't contacting the people enough?
And if you just set up the expectation in the beginning and just say, here's why it's happening this way, they're happy. As long as they hear from you, they're happy.
Yeah.
So I don't let a midnight of a Tuesday go by if they're not hearing from me.
Why are you calling me so late?
Well, I'll send an email. But yeah, Wednesdays I try to take as my down day. So my staff tries not to, I tell them, like, do not email me unless there's a fire. I don't want to know about it. So that's the day where I try to do things like think about my business and think about what I'm doing and, write the book or, stuff like that. Now, don't get me wrong. I still do home inspections on day. I still show homes that day. But as far as like new things, that's the quiet day.
Okay.
Thursdays, I start getting ready for the weekend and the weekend showing. So I'll start maybe touching with clients or start looking at listings and just kind of seeing what I'm going to be showing that weekend. Fridays, usually, settlements and getting ready for the weekend. So what I do every week, is every Friday, my buyers know they're going to hear from me.
Okay.
And they're going to know that I'm going to say, okay, here's your criteria. Here's the 5 homes I think we should see tomorrow.
Right.
What time? Noon. Great. See you then.
I might have asked you this when we talked on the phone, but do you do any of the REO short sale stuff?
Not as a active marketing, no.
Okay. Then...
well, I should say I buy auctions, but that's a separate.
Okay, yes. I mean, in terms of when you're talking to an REO, they have 64 listings, and I mean it's a very different type of business. One of the things that is very powerful, I know when I talk to my agents about how to close the sales cycle on a buyer, in the sense of buyers can go on forever, or they can not go on forever, and sometimes it's the buyer, but we obviously have to be able to impact that process by really knowing who they are, what they look for, and trying to get them to make a good decision for them. Do you do anything, or can you talk a little bit about how you try to make it so that they can find the house as quickly as possible?
So the first
Not to put too fine a point on it.
Yeah, I mean the first thing I do with buyers, and I'm heavy on buyers, and that's on purpose. I just like them. I don't know why. Well, I know why, because I do mainly first-time home buyers.
Okay.
And it's like they need you. They will soak up anything. You know what I mean? And that's, for me, that's why I'm here.
Okay.
So what I do is I do not do anything with them until they come in my office and sit down with me. And I have this little packet that I
Is that before or after they get pre-approved?
Before.
Okay.
I tell clients, and I tell this to my referral people, I always ask for referrals. I tell like people, you know what, if they're thinking about it and they're worried about financing, they're worried about timing, just come get the information.
Right.
Because what I'll do during that meeting is I have a 45-minute meeting and I go through this flow chart I created of the buyer process.
Okay.
And when I get to the part, every time I get to the part where it talks about settlement, and I say, like, you are going to get to settlement. Like, that's something. And I say things like, you know, it's not my, like if they say, well, you know, should I really be buying right now? And I say, look, I'm here if you make that decision. Once you've made the decision to that you want to be a homeowner, then I am here and I will help you.
Buy a house.
No,
I mean in a good way, right?
Yeah,
we're gonna get you to that settlement.
Yeah, but you know, I make it pretty clear that like I'm here to help if that's the decision that they've made for themselves. But if not, at least you have the information,
Right.
and because there will be a day when you decide to do it, I will still be doing real estate. I hope to work with you, but it doesn't matter if it's tomorrow, next year, 10 years from now. So that's the perspective that I sit down with them. And I talk about previewing homes in that flow chart, and I say this process, that piece, is where people get stuck. You will either go on forever and never find a home that fits your needs, or you know, some people find them the first day, and that can't scare you.
Right.
So everything that kind of comes up, I put right in their face. I talk about financing and how difficult it is and how it's going to be the hurdle for them, and they're going to want to give up right there. But that's the time, if they can get through that, the rest of the stuff's a breeze. I just, you know, because I want people to know that this isn't like rocket science, but it's also not, it's not something that everyone should do and can do. But I don't want to spend 10 hours in the car with them.
Well, and that's the thing I'm going to ask is, you know, because I'm going to ask this, but I don't want this to come off as, oh, that's all we care about is how many hours we spend in the car with them. But do you track that? Do you watch and say, you know what, my target is 9 hours?
No, I don't. And here's why, because I think every buyer and every person's kind of different. And I have some clients who are like, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, I'm ready. Like, go in a house, 2 seconds later, they turn around, it's not for us. Now, that's my personality, and I love those clients.
Right.
But not everyone operates that way.
Yeah, right.
I have some clients who, like, you know, they'll stay in a house. They don't even like the house, but they want to sit in there and place furniture. That's fine, because the fact of the matter is like, that's how they operate. And I'll have a conversation with them after every outing. So we'll go see at houses, and as I'm dropping them off or something, I'll say, hey, so give me a rundown. Tell me what you learned. I'll tell you what I learned. You go first. And they'll say something, and then usually I ask them, you know, do you feel like you're getting closer, or do you feel like you're still floundering? And if they say they're still floundering, then I always bring up the location piece. For me, that's where people, and I tell buyers this, that's where people get, that's where they lose, that's where I lose them.
How do you mean? Talk a little bit more about that. What do you mean by the location piece?
If they can't figure out where they want to live, it will never happen.
Right.
Because once you figure out, like I have people that come to me like today, DC, Maryland, Virginia, I don't care where I live. Well, you got to pick a state, and then you got to pick a county.
Right.
And then we'll start looking at houses together. But you got to, and I'll say, look, here's some open houses, like you got to figure this out.
Right.
And that's again why sometimes I don't work with a ton of strangers, because most of my clients know each other, and they already have like a friend who bought here and said they want to live there. But you know, that location piece has to be fixed first. The number one decision, and then there's only so much in their budget.
So taking that, we were talking about the how you spent your time, and let's talk about that in terms of vision. Like, what is well, actually, before I even get that, I want to ask a question. You have because I you know, relatively young agent.
Yeah.
Okay, a young person, young person, young agent. You probably have a lot of agents who come up to you and say, well, you know, hey, so you've been successful. How do you respond to that? I mean, what kind of advice do you give agents?
I ask them if they really love what they're doing. Like, you gotta love it. And there's days that I don't love it, but there are most of the days and most of the time I spend with my clients, I'm loving what I do. I think it's the right thing for me to be doing, and that's number one. And number two is like, there was a period when I hated it, when I was gonna give up and like do something else. But then I said, you know what? There's no other option. Like, I think this is what is the right fit for me, and I think I have something to teach people, and I just have to figure it out. And so that's when I started making those conscious choices,
right?
And just saying, you know, this is what feels right for me, you know. And that, you know, I'll tell clients, friends, and other agents a lot, you know, I can't be lured by things that don't fit in my parameters,
right? Because
like I went through that for a little while, and it doesn't, when it doesn't feel right, or you're like, it if it doesn't match your skill set, like I wouldn't be a good REO agent. I just wouldn't. And I know that, and so I don't focus my energies there.
Right.